Let's stand and we'll do a pledge to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're gonna kick everything off here tonight. We'll have a public comment part. We're gonna do it at the end, just because like we'll have some more to comment about towards the end. We probably don't have a whole lot to discuss at this point, but I'll throw it over to Teresa, who's gonna kind of run the show.
Good evening.
Just so everyone here is aware, the meeting is being recorded. It's not live streamed. It'll be published to YouTube after the meeting. In order for any audio to get picked up for the recording, you have to push your button and speak in. And that goes for public comment as well. For public comment, yes, push and hold.
Baker will be tired by the end of the night. I'm Teresa Sparacino from Delta Development Group. We've been looking to prepare an economic development strategy for the township. Delta Development Group is located in Camphill, and we have three sectors: planning, public funding, and disaster preparedness services. With me is Megan Sephora, or I always watch the last name, and Dane Higby. And then if we could have the steering committee introduce yourselves.
Start at the end with Mitch.
Yeah, I'll go first. My name is Mitchell McHale. I'm on the planning commission, yes.
My name is Christine. My name is Christine Worley. I'm also on the planning commission. My name is Lisa Hess. I'm the government lens for head.
That we all need through your planning commission, lifelong career.
Katie Donnell.
Fred Miller, Cumru Township Commissioner.
Deb Woolman. I'm with the Greater Living Chamber Alliance and Greater Lakes Development.
I'm Lynette, the Department of Community and Economic Development Networks County.
John Humford, representing the Shaw.
Michelle Roby, one of the school board members with the Governor Mifflin School District and serving on this committee as one of our representatives.
Our objectives for this document is to review the project scope, our timeline for completion. The most important part of this meeting will be a SWOT assessment with the steering committee. So it's engaging the steering committee, letting, we're gonna shut up for a while, Delta, and allow the community to talk about strengths, some of the weaknesses, the challenges with economic development. And then we'll review next steps in kind of our action items. We wanted to go over the importance of having an economic development strategic plan. And first, most importantly, it's a shared vision for the community. So it's not Delta coming in and saying, you need to do this, and this. What we do is we listen to the community. We have an extensive public outreach plan as part of this process. And then we take the public outreach, public comments, and synthesize those with the data that we procured from Berks County, but also we'll plug in some data as well as we start to hear things from not only the community members and some of the stakeholders. It will provide a roadmap for the vision. So it's not just going to give you here it is, here's what you should do, but it's how you do it. It's your implementation plan, it's your action plan, and then it's also how you fund it, because you can have the best ideas, but if you can't get it funded and you can't get the investment, your economy will stay the same as it is right now. And our goal is to give you a roadmap and an action plan that gets you from your vision to reality. It'll align your goals and the resources, it'll identify target industries. So we'll look at what is working now within the township as your commercial and industrial base. What are some of those industries that can be nurtured? How can they grow? Where can they grow? And what's the process for that? We'll look at your infrastructure. And is that one of the areas that's holding back any development within the community? And when we talk about development, it's not just commercial development, it's also residential development as well. It's recreational assets. So all the components of a good economy, it's commercial, it's industrial, it's residential, it's recreation, it's your workforce. We'll look at all those parts of an economy and figure out what's working in the township, where are some areas that need to be strengthened, and how do you move forward. And infrastructure is probably going to be a key area. We're going to identify some areas, and again, this is not just data, but it also be the public areas that are in need of improvement, but also areas that could be developed. What are some of the components that are important to enhance the quality of life? What improves the attractiveness factor of the township that will then attract new residents in and new business in as well? We'll establish your performance measures. What are your benchmarks for success? And then provide some tools to allow you to achieve your vision. So our project goals are to attract new investment into the township, promote existing businesses, allowing not only retaining what you have, but also other areas where your existing businesses can grow. Leverage your existing assets. Build on your existing relationships with the county, with the private sector. Develop strategies for revitalizing some of your commercial areas. Identify areas for new housing and possibly mixed-use development. Assess your gaps in existing infrastructure and transportation. And then sustain your environmental stewardship. These will be on the website as well, so you can look at them as you're viewing the YouTube. Our key deliverables to the township will be a market assessment and a public engagement report. So that's a synthesis of the data and public outreach. And then more importantly, is your action plan. So what is the overall vision that comes out of this planning process? What are the goals and objectives? The analysis and description of your critical program elements, which is business development, housing, infrastructure, transportation, and public amenities. We'll list the actions that are required to achieve your vision, prioritize those actions. What are some of the things that can be done within the first 3 years? What are some things that are going to take longer because of the infrastructure? Where are some low-hanging fruit so that you can start to move on something, build the credibility for the plan, and draw more interest into investment into the township. We'll list your measurable outcomes, which could be jobs created, new retail attracted, new housing developments, and then provide an implementation guide. And that guide will identify who's responsible, what are the parties that are required, what's the investment required, and what's the cost, and how do you get it done. Our schedule for this plan is your task one, the kickoff meeting. And our data and public outreach will occur between now and April. We do have opportunities, I'll talk about this a little later, for the public to be actively involved. We have 2 open houses that we have scheduled. Those are going to be very informal kind of venues where people aren't comfortable speaking in public and provide their input. Have it at a schedule that's convenient for residents, either on an evening or weekend so that we capture as many people as we can. Our open houses, we're looking at April and possibly June. And that's what we want to talk to the steering committee this evening. Looking at the schedule, does it make sense? Because our goal is that this proceeds down the path so that you maintain the interest of the community and stakeholders that are engaged. Our goal is to have the plan completed by September. So we talk now.
Say Gene, the seat up there, come on up.
And
Play sitting in the audience, sorry.
so roles and responsibilities. Delta's role is the overall project management, so we'll keep things moving according to our schedule and the tasks to be completed, facilitate steering committee meetings, facilitate the stakeholder interviews, focus groups, surveys, our public open house, conduct a comprehensive economic and development analysis and SWOT assessment, assess your existing conditions, and that goes back to your infrastructure and areas for development. Review your zoning and land use. Define your economic vision based on the public input. Develop goals, strategies, the action plan, and then align those recommendations. The steering committee's role is to identify the stakeholders, identify participants for focus groups, provide feedback for public survey questions and business and industry questions, attend each open house if possible, and provide feedback on our deliverable of the market assessment, our initial goals and strategies, and the action plan and funding strategy. So the steering committee is our sounding board. So we'll develop, an initial vision and goals and recommendations. The steering committee will tell us if we're full of it or if it is good. And that's the purpose of the steering committee. So we'll rely on the steering committee to keep us on the path forward. Our community engagement plan, and this is where we thought it was very important to keep the public involved during this whole process. We'll kick off with a visioning session with the township. So, and that's important to talk about, again, the infrastructure and the goals for the township as well. Individual stakeholder meetings, we'll hold 10 of those, virtual meetings, focus group meetings, we'll have 4 of those, one with community leaders and civic organizations, stakeholders consisting of large employers and real estate professionals, county officials and institutions, and neighborhood associations. We'll also have an interactive public survey. So this is a survey that township will post a link. And we'll also have areas for hard copies in case people are comfortable completing a survey online. But this is your first opportunity to have some input to talk about, and we'll have questions on there that talks about the township and your goals and the community's goals. We'll have an online dashboard, so you'll see these results on the township's website, and then 2 public open houses. So at the first open house will be a session where we're engaging the community in getting some of the existing conditions and thoughts. The second open house will have the draft plan. So we'll have an opportunity for residents to have input into that draft plan before it actually goes into final draft and then to the steering. Does the steering committee have any questions at this point, any comments? So we told, we did, Greg was kind enough to provide some contact with the county. to start to download some of the data. We have some very high level. What we like to do is look at the data, initially, start our public outreach and then dig down into the data to make sure that, you know, what we're seeing in the data is actually happening on the ground, what we're hearing from the stakeholders and the public and from the business community. The township's economy, and we're probably not telling you anything you don't already know here. Robust healthcare sector, complicated by significant retail and professional services presence. Small businesses dominate the township and the county with nearly 50% countywide establishments classified as micro enterprise. Workforce challenges in healthcare present shared opportunities for talent attraction. And then with the healthcare, 33% of the workforce is in healthcare field, in healthcare industry. And small businesses, 81% of the workforce is in the small business industry. Business size distribution, this is 61%, 1 to 4 employees. Almost 20% in the 5 to 9 employees, and then about 19% have 10 or more employees. So again, the leading industry composition is healthcare and social services, retail, manufacturing, and professional and technical. Key demographic. Your total population is 15,857. Your median age is 43.78. Your median household income is 93,000, and associate's degree or higher is 49% of those aged 18 and above, 25. These are important when we start to look at business attracting, say, a new retailer or grocer into your community. They look at those key demographics. So that's one of the first things we look at. We also looked at the comparison, because we wanted to see, okay, how does the township compare to the surrounding townships? And we looked at the population growth, and it is projected that the township will have some growth between the next 5-year period. Your median age will drop from 43.78 to 42.6, which means a younger population is moving into the township. The median household income is comparable to the surrounding townships, not so much the smaller boroughs, but to the surrounding townships. And then as far as educational attainment, it's also comparable. Wyoming has slightly higher percentage of population with an associate degree or higher. And then with owner-occupied housing, which 66% of the homes are owner-occupied, which is a strong market. That will dip a little bit in from 2024 to 2029 by about 2.1%, which isn't a large variation. We want to talk now with the steering committee. I'm going to have Megan go up to the poster board. And we're going to go over your key strengths and opportunities. Excuse me. This is where we want to hear from the steering committee. We're going to start with your strengths to begin with.
Can I just ask if anybody has any questions on some of the data that just went through? Hey, I saw Christine talking about the household income looking high. I was reading lips over here.
Yes, the best in my knowledge, Governor Mifflin is considered a economically disadvantaged district. So if it is an economically, district, so, how you wouldn't have this if the income level was at 93,000. But it's nowhere near because we have a free lunch, free breakfast. I mean, we're doing a lot for the community based on being economically disadvantaged.
I have a question, too, kind of put superintendent on the spot. To the projections, population wise, is that kind of match what you're seeing?
Yes, we're pretty much stagnant, yes.
Okay.
And also, Christina, I just wanted to note that there are only 2 of the 5 boroughs listed on here. So we serve, Billington and Pembroke. Right now. So the average of those 5, like right now.
And is also your average based on the students that attend? So there may be some households without students that drive that median income higher as well.
Yes, my question is with Spring Ridge, there is no municipality named Spring Ridge in Berks County. So what area are you incorporating when you mention Spring Ridge?
We pulled this from the Reading Chamber website. So we'll look at that. Our data guy is not here tonight, but he may have noted that as Spring Ridge, where it might be another municipality.
It could
We
be Berks
pulled-
or Viking, the combination of.
Okay.
I'm not different one of these boroughs, so I'm not exactly sure what area.
And we pulled these from the county's planning areas, metro area, so that we're including the municipalities that are part of that. The smaller municipalities didn't have data for anything less than 5,000 as population. And again, this is initial, right? So when we start to dig into the data based on some of the comments, and you'll probably see if we did take all those municipalities and blended those, that median household income would not be what the township says.
Can we pass around that fair copy so that the audience can review it?
When it comes to the healthcare as being the largest employer, I'm assuming that's probably taking up a lot of the retirement communities.
Yeah.
If nothing else to go keep going.
So this is where we want to hear from you as steering committee members. So let's talk about what you identify as the strengths of the township.
And I can dive in. I think Cumru Township, taking the median household income at face value, plus or minus maybe whatever it may be, that's a high number, right? We can all look at the number $93,000 as median household income, and I think we can all agree. By comparison, our neighbors, Spring, 94. Why am I saying 91? Muhlenberg, 74. The comparable neighbors I see, first class townships or other neighboring municipalities were either close with or higher than in terms of median household income. So to me, that seems like a massive strength. The question might lead into opportunities is where is that money being spent? I think that's probably the right.
To follow up on that, I think that's a really good point because you probably have pretty significant retail leakage as a result of them, those households not being able to spend some of their disposable income within the township itself.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about that as we kind of toured the neighborhoods, if you will, going through there. There's areas where people are probably just simply driving through to get somewhere else. And we want to try and find ways to keep them here. I think our location is actually one of our strengths. We spent a lot of time talking about the upcoming train station in the city and how we're kind of uniquely positioned here where people can live in the suburbs and get into the city very easily or the new train. And now that's probably 5 years out, but folks that don't want to live in the city can very easily get there from different parts of Cumru Township.
I think this ability,
Sorry, it's in the city of Reading is where the stop is going to Philadelphia, the new train, in case everybody wasn't aware.
The one question that I have as I'm looking at the charts, I appreciate having the population, the median age and the income and the education. But I heard you say, and I apologize, I forget what your name was about saying about being a lifelong Cumru Township resident. And I was kind of reflecting on myself about how I've basically been, except for like 6 years, a Cumru Township resident myself. And I almost wonder when we start to think about the demographics and what benefits we have, is if that would help in the chart as well to know like how many people have lived in the township for 10 years or more. And if that could be another demographic that we could add in here as a chart.
yeah, that was one of the strengths I was going to mention. My name is Bev. And it seems like housing stability, there's not a lot of turnover in the real estate market from what it appears. I know in our neighborhood, it's very rare for a house to go up for sale. And when it does go up for sale, it's sold within a few days.
Another thing that immediately comes to mind for me is our size, geographically. If you look at other municipalities, particularly some of the boroughs, if they're landlocked, they can't grow out. There's no room for development. That they're entirely residential from edge to edge, and there's not much opportunity for growth. I think a strength for Cumru Township, there's a whole different conversation about who owns what land, but I think the fact that Cumru Township is large and has a diverse geography is probably a strength in our case.
Along those lines, I think the services we provide are really good. And I'm sure I'm going to sound like a homer, but I think, if you talk to people around the county, you hear everybody knows Gene and they know how great of a job Gene does. And our operations staff is great. Our public works department is large and does a great job, as is our police force and fire force, so on and so forth. We are known for our services here. So I think it's an attractive area to live from that standpoint.
Want to play off of that and say that having knowledgeable and engaged leadership is incredibly important as you look through your future. And the fact that you've had that stability in place for a long time and continuity is an incredible asset.
Now, along those lines, I think we have a lot of support too, and I think the folks on this committee will get to see that as we go on. But the county folks, which is Pam being here and Deb being here, to the commissioner level and even at the state level, we have a lot of folks that are vested in us that want to see us succeed and want to see us grow. So that additional support from leadership at a higher level in Cumru Township is very important.
Any other townships?
I would also suggest our schools are quite good. I mean, sure, there's other school districts that may be rated higher than us by some metric or another, but I proudly, I too am a lifelong Cumruite. I graduated elementary school from Cumru Elementary. And I'm proud to say I'm a Flint grad and I'm proud of our schools. I think our schools are great about it.
I think I'll add to that, a lot of our employees are residents. And that is a strength.
And Beth, I do have to agree with what you said as well, that when houses do go for sale on the market, they do tend to go faster. From what I've seen in Cumru Township than they do in even some of our neighboring areas, even within the same school district. People tend to want to come to Cumru Township. So the housing stock, I mean, not only the stability, but the quality of housing stock would also be a strength.
I need to ask a question about housing in the state. It was under I was under the impression that there is no more places to build additional residential properties. So we're not drinking.
Of course, you had to ask that kind of question. There are fill-in lots, but there are no more large tracts of land that can be another Overbrook or another Flying Hills or something like that. There is Deerfield Phase 4, which is technically a recorded plan, but hasn't been constructed yet. But the only large development that is on the verge of producing a large number of units is apartment buildings. So as far as single family, quarter acre lot type of subdivisions, I don't know of any that are in the offing.
But do you know there are tracts of land that can be developed into housing?
I think the best person to talk about this might be Mr. Hoffert, but since he and I work together so often on planning issues, it's the topography. When we get to the weaknesses, I can help you there, but I will tell you flat out, the topography of Cumru Township, seeing this very hilly area before you get to the Lancaster Valley, it makes it very, very difficult. So the answer to your question is it is difficult to envision a large tract of land that could result in a large residential subdivision because of the topography itself.
Anything else before we, I did one more. You have redevelopment opportunities here. Not all municipalities have that, and I think that's a strength. That could be a challenge, but I definitely think. There's also a governmentally comprehensive plan created, I'm not sure how many years ago, so that's also a good start base where to jump off from.
2017.
Let's talk about your weaknesses.
Sounds like Jean's ready to go there.
She'll be holding her butt down for a while.
Although if you would consider the topography actually a weakness or a challenge, that's certainly one. With respect to both new development and redevelopment, the balkanized nature of a lot of the properties along 222 Business and in some other areas of the township makes it very difficult to put together a tract of land for any kind of development. Everybody's interested? I brought my list of properties along 222 business and all, and there are various entities that own 6 sliver lots and 2 or 3 lots, and so that's one of the, I think the biggest challenges is the balkanized nature of small lots owned by various entities that don't, how do they get enticed to sell and for redevelopment? I don't know.
Jane. Aren't we looking at eminent domain?
You need a lawyer for that, but my understanding is that it is not within legal procedure to have eminent domain just for the purpose of handing land over to a developer. That was in the Kelo decision on the Supreme Court level, that was ruled constitutional, but I believe most states, including Pennsylvania, that ruling shocked the conscience, and most states enacted laws and regulations to prevent that from happening.
Well, my question would be, isn't that what happened when 222 was developed? And the bowling alley and everything left, and did that take away a lot of the business in the first place?
But that was for a public purpose, a
Correct.
limited access highway.
Correct, I'm just asking.
If there's a public purpose, eminent domain can occur, but to say, we want to hand this over to somebody else to develop, so we're gonna take it away from you.
No,
That's the issue.
I absolutely agree, and I'm not supporting the eminent domain question at all. I just was questioning if that was part of the time that we started to lose a lot of our economic resources.
Yes,
Sorry,
we lost. The bowling alley itself had 99 jobs associated with it. And then there were 9 other businesses that were taken away. I'm sure everybody remembers the Redmond Quick Shop and the Suzuki Place. And there are the ones that I can't even recall right now. But yes, that was an extremely challenging time. And the Cumru Township Board of Commissioners, that's when they took it upon themselves to look at developing the East Point Business Center, which has been developed. The question is, what's next?
Thank you.
And Jean, I think your balkanized properties is probably a challenge. I mean, it's a weakness, but that is going to be the greatest challenge. Is having a number of property owners, again, and where we put on an council, try to figure out how we can help that.
The bulk of your available land that can be developed is not along your major highways or your major infrastructure. Your infrastructure as it's set up does not have full capabilities of public sewer, public water. The rural areas are where your large tracts are. You don't have a lot of the infrastructure in which to develop another fine hills because you don't have the sewer. Shillington is basically your local water company that extends not only from Shillington to Mountain and Cumru, for what I'm missing. Yes, we can gather a lot of water from our Western Park system. But the problem is distributing and constructing that facility in which to take, say, along 222 corridor. Not financially feasible for that one entity to extend services without there being a major landholder that's willing to develop that tract. And honestly, pay for the extension of the cemetery sewer. You just don't build and think that they will come. It never will happen with utilities. If the development is going to be there, yes, we can service it, but at a cost, absolutely. So just keep that in mind. Your larger tracts are not along the corridor. They're in your rural Cumru Township areas. And yes, there are a lot of large tracts that can be developed and could be developed. But the problem is the cost of your improvements today, your roadway costs. 30, 40 or so years ago,
a street might have only cost you $100 to $150 of running book. Now they basically start at $500 to $600 of running plus, which jacks up the cost of the lots, the cost of the materials, and the ability to buy a reasonable house for a fair cost. Oh, more, it does not work. So your development potential is there, but the problem is the cost to develop is not.
John, what are you referring to with the large tracts? Just throw it out to me. Give me an idea of where you're saying are possibilities.
Well, there's a lot of farms, open areas that might consist of 20, 30, 50, even 60 acres at one shot. Even along Freemansville Road, there's other properties that are available for sale, or that could be sold. But as long as you're along the corridor, it's like Gene Johnson said, it's smaller tracts. It's not something that a developer will actually come in and want to buy one property. People want to come in and buy multiple properties that are contiguous as to develop it in a larger manner. And a lot of those properties going up the corridor, if you look, sorry to say they're in Spring Township, not Cumru. The criminal line basically parallels the 222 corridor for the most part on the western side, but not enough of the land is within Cumru to develop. You have a lot of hills. You have a lot of wooding. You have some pipelines that cut through there. Talk about challenging properties, to be developed. It's not quite what you would want.
It's another weakness that comes to mind immediately for me is the tax assessed value, as I understand it, is not heading in the direction that we want it to be.
And then along those lines, our costs keep going up.
If I can mention, when we talk about economic development, there's a whole, it's everything from larger developments to small businesses. And I think we've been maybe talking more about larger developments, but obviously in the township, there's a need for smaller businesses to come in and the challenges and barriers are probably not particular to them. You plan that a small business afford to, pay the lease and get a business up and running. So, as we're talking about larger, it's economic development, there's a lot of things that fall under economic development. Well, and that was one of the things that struck me as I was looking at the business size distribution versus the leading industry composition. So when we look at the fact that the healthcare, and maybe I'm reading these charts wrong, but if I'm looking at the fact that the healthcare and social services is the largest employer, but that's our smallest chunk of business size distribution. Our largest chunk is holding less than 4 employees. So I'm kind of looking at it as maybe we need to look at something that would bring in more employees. And if we could stick to weaknesses, and we're going to talk about opportunities, what your opportunities might be. Can you identify any other weaknesses? And then let's talk about challenges while we're kind of on the down pressing side. That's not opportunity. That's
Sort of zero in perhaps on the weakness we're all aware of and have talked about it a lot already is infrastructure. I think zeroing in on that, I think the weakness, as I would point out, is infrastructure where we have commercially zoned property and where we would hope to incentivize redevelopment. I think that maybe just to be a little bit more fine-tuned with it.
I just want to add in terms of residential development, I know there's not a lot of opportunity, but it would stress our school system because we do not have room for additional for many students in addition to what we have. So we would have to do additional renovations.
I think one weakness is you can't get there from here. There are, because of the nature of the boundary of Cumru Township, and here's a little trivia for you. Cumru Township shares the most municipal boundaries of any municipality in Berks County. There are places in Cumru Township that you cannot get to unless you go through another municipality to get there. The flagship for that is South 9th Street, that you can only get to through the city of Reading, but it's not the only one. Main Street in Moton turns into a private road in Cumru Township, for example. And there are other locations. So that I would say is a weakness, that there are parts of the township that you cannot get to from the township. I don't know how you write that on your board.
I'll have to come up with something.
Isolation.
I would say that our township's not getting younger either. And we talked about residential not having the ability to build more houses for the 20s, 30-year-olds that are moving from Chester County, the city, come to the suburbs. Especially with this train station going in Reading, we don't have the ability to build single-family homes. I would say our township will eventually just continue to get older and older.
John. Yeah, I would say something, to be honest, if I look at it, that's that area in the corridor that comes from the top of the 5 Mile House Hill down to Connor Delaney's Good Life building. But he put about 3 million into that, but tell everybody about the lack of water, and I think the last water going up that hill is the fire plug at Connor Delaney's place.
2 properties up from that. Yeah, but they're
properties.
close, but they're small properties, but yes, that's an issue.
Our water system currently goes up to Gateway Medical Facility. We have a letter of serviceability for the next property to the left, which would be the warehouses. Greenfield warehouse. They have come to the Shonton Authority requesting a will serve letter for us to extend the water line to them at their expense. Yes, they need us for fire suppression and small domestic use. They could probably get away with well, but it's to their advantage for fire suppression. That is the end of our front line at Gateway. And honestly, we have the water, but we don't have the pressure. So because of the terrain, because of the elevations, that's our issue, is extending it to give them total water, which is not going to happen. They're not in which to store and have a reliable build fire time in which to utilize their facility. And then they're going to drain us at the end of our line to fill that tank above, rather than their needs. But we're only going to lock down so many down benefits. So our infrastructure extends to there, and even though it's a 12-inch tank, we're going to allow water because of the difference in elevation, the static case pressure of the loss and everything else that goes along with the water system. We're just about at the end of the
Mr. McCoy, are you referring to from Joseph's Way down to the former Lazy Boy? Everybody would know it as the old Lazy Boy. There is a hole in the donut there, yeah, of water.
Aren't there some houses up on Mountain View and Sheerland that tap into Nolby for water?
There's a private water line that comes from Oldie Park and comes down 625, angles over and deals with some of the buildings over in Sherwood. But that's a 6-inch line that was put in when Hans Nolden owned it. So we're going back in time that I don't think any PUC company would want to ever own and maintain it. It's that old.
But you have
Yeah, I think one weakness is that the lack of organized recreational activities for the community. If we want to reward younger families here, I think that's the right time. And certainly, look at poverty, negative, but it's a beautiful thing. And that can be developed with the good life ideas, creating some recreational activities. I call it recreation. Time to really chill back and do something.
Just for the video's sake, Mr. Emery suggested that our natural resources and opportunity for recreational activity. Because that's a lacking
A lack
recreational,
thereof is a weakness.
resources, sorry.
So your strength is your natural resources, so you should probably put that. No, but you've got, I mean, topography can be your weakness, but it's also relative. Because, we're seeing it in the winter, but it has to be very beautiful in the spring, summer, and fall. So I think that's one of your assets and strengths as well. I hate snow.
I would point out, however, that Nolde Forest is 660 acres in the middle of town, which is a considerable swath of land, and that DCNR owns some other land, the William Penn Forest on the extreme east side of the township, and there's some other DCNR land owned off of Oregon Road. So it's about 700 acres of the township is dedicated to state-owned passive recreational activity.
Any other weaknesses? We talked a little bit about challenges with, the size of properties and ownership. Can you identify any other challenges? To start. Right. Start to talk about,
It's topography, we talked about that. I think Mr. Hopper's point is very well taken. That in the areas where we have the transportation corridor, those are the areas that I'm referring to as volcanic, very, very chopped up, the properties. Another one is that, although I'm grateful to Shillington Water, in fact, I'm a customer of Shillington Water, they're not the only water gang in town. We actually have 4 different water companies in Cumru Township. So in some areas, there are different challenges for those different water entities. Rawa has its challenges. PA American only serves a very small portion of the township on the extreme western side near the 222 limited access corridor. And then, of course, there's Aqua America, which serves the southeastern portion of the township. So sometimes issues concerning any of the water entities can be a challenge to somebody who wants to develop something.
Seems like some of your retail stock is on the other side, and so I think that's probably, a challenge to folks looking to move in terms of maybe what they would have to do to renovate the space or, the tenants surrounding them, or just things like that would be a significant problem.
I don't know, maybe this falls under the balkanized properties, but incentivizing folks to sell is going to be a challenge.
Perhaps to state the obvious, funding. I don't think any of our municipalities, Cumru Township, any of the greater New Midland School District municipalities are swimming in cash. So we're gonna need help. We're gonna need a coalition at the local level, county level, thank you, at the state level, to help get this done. So I think funding will be a challenge, but we have opportunities there.
I think with the state owning the bowling alley land, that's not available for development because the state owns it. If that can be turned over to the township, that is very developable area. We have attempted, but the state wants to keep it in case they ever need to do major repair on 222 South. They want to relocate their concrete batch plant there. That's what was there during the construction, and they want to retain that right of way. Obtaining excess right of way from PennDOT is a daunting task. To give you an example, for the Greens Hill warehouse, there is a triangle up near 222 that Cumru Township now owns, but it took us 11 years to acquire that in order to produce a break in the limited access for the medical office building that's currently there. So I agree with you, and we'd love to have it, but it has been extremely difficult to get excess PennDOT right away. Any other thoughts on challenges? All right, let's dream big. What are the opportunities?
Well, I always say your challenges usually are your opportunities too. So, like Deb just said, a lot of our stuff is older. It's built for revitalization.
I think you've got to find a way to get more younger people to move into your township that you can connect it to the incoming rail station. Because it gives you an opportunity to live here. And it's 5 minutes, 10, 15 minutes to the train station, and then I'm in the city for work. That has to be one of the big things. And then I would think jobs, finding a way to get those wonderful employee businesses to somehow get back into Cumru Township. How we do that is what we have to figure out.
But I agree. I think that I would qualify the proximity to proposed train line as a massive opportunity for us to draw appeal and to draw young families and people who may be commuting outside of here.
So
proximity to the train lines.
big opportunity, I think, that we have from actually talking with some of the county commissioners is that we have a willingness to grow here. That's one of the things that Mr. Rivera in particular pointed out to me when I was talking to him, is that a lot of the other surrounding townships here, they don't necessarily want to change things and they don't necessarily want to grow. So I think our pure willingness to be open is going to probably help us in the long run.
One of the items that you have to consider for growth is to allow subdivisions to occur. Cumru Township, in over the last 20, 30 years, has always been known to accommodate those wishing to develop land. Why? Because at their dime, they're going to put in new roads. They're going to bring in the infrastructure for the utilities such as public water, public sewer. So just to say development is good or bad, think about what the developer can do. They can bring the updated roads, they can do the infrastructure being the utilities more throughout your municipality than what you will do. So it's just food for thought. Don't wrinkle up one's nose and say, no, we're not for development anymore. I think that would be a bad situation. You have to promote growth. And in order for that to happen, you, the planning commission, the commissioners, etc., have to be all on the same wavelength to accept that and control it, but allow it.
You know, I mentioned funding as a challenge. Like Greg said, challenges are opportunities, and I think, as you see amongst this steering committee, we have representatives from our township, we have representatives from our school district, we have representatives from our county, we have other folks from the county here. We have support across all levels of government, including at the state. I think that's a massive opportunity for us. And to your point, I think we can't just expect some developer to come in here and say, I'm gonna buy up all these divided up Swiss cheese properties and turn them into one, and gonna put a Wegmans there and put the perfect development over here. No, that would be absurd for anyone to expect that. But I think what we do have an opportunity to see some of the support we have for smart growth.
Thank you for mentioning smart growth. David, did you have?
Yeah. I think along those lines, I think there's support amongst the public. And when I've gone around and talked to a lot of the people in our area, they want to see new restaurants, new retail, new this, new that. I think that there's a desire not just from our board to grow, but from everybody here to see some change.
And some of your opportunity is in that housing, which is attractive to retail and knowing that you've got a higher level of consumer spending power. And I think that is also an opportunity. I think you have good marketing opportunities relative to your location and your income and stability. Actually, stability of the township, because honestly, I mean, you talked about this earlier, but having a borough manager who's been in place for 20 years speaks about the stability of the township. You know, you look at some townships where every 2 years they have a manager coming in. You've got stability here with your staff, so that speaks well of your township and the quality here. What are some of your other assets that can be leveraged? You know, we talked about the topography, we talked about your location, talked about the proximity to the proposed train line. What can you identify as some of your other assets that could be leveraged for some of these opportunities?
The one thing that comes to mind to me is an opportunity, and sort of maybe along those lines. A little bit tangential is the assets aren't, and this is not just specific to the country, but it's not just us here. I think we have an opportunity to build a coalition across the greater government community with our boroughs, and with Killington, Penhurst, Brecknock, Mountain. But this is not a Cumru Township opportunity. I think we have an opportunity and partner and neighbors that can be assets, that we can be an asset to. Maybe that's a little bit abstract. What you're looking for.
Because actually, you know, that Jean talked about, you think that they're from here. But the fact that you do have to go through these other municipalities, within the township. Let's talk about the fact that you are connected, you know, that they are part of, whether they're part of your municipal boundaries. They're part of the fabric of their community. They families, children attend the school district. So I think that is an opportunity to work collaboratively with your neighbors.
For my own take on things, Cumru is in a unique position simply because of the fact that it is represented by 3 different state representatives. So the thing that it is that it's a matter of being able to tap those representatives to promote state funding. That would be great, since we are, I mean, I don't know of any other township that has 3 representatives.
To your point, they're all fully behind this, talked to every one of them personally, and they love it. Anything we need.
And further building on that, it's not like we're a blue municipality or a red municipality, we're a very purple municipality. We have state representation that from both parties, and I think that's an opportunity that we can get the support by bipartisan support. Because this is not a partisan issue. This is about building our community, and across party lines, I think that's a pretty popular idea.
I think one of the big opportunities we have here is to kind of stabilize our expense structure. I mean, I can speak from the township standpoint, and I've spoken to Lisa about this a number of times. I mean, we need more sources of revenue. And here's the way to do it. But do it smartly too. And I know Pam is shaking her head on that without even looking at her, right? I mean, we've got to do it. We got to do this intelligently.
I love the fact that the township was used for a movie that's coming out on Friday. And that's, you know, an opportunity. Is there filming areas that we could somehow promote?
I guess to piggyback on John's statement, we've talked about our challenges with our infrastructure, but this is an opportunity to update and revitalize and even get new infrastructure here. So this is a big chance to really build out our infrastructure.
And I wanna sort of touch on that too, and I don't know how perhaps the landscape has shifted politically regarding the recent election, but I know not long ago there was major infrastructure spending that was provisioned at the national level. I think there's money that's being earmarked for infrastructure. So that's got to be an opportunity for us, and it's probably not going to be around forever.
Yes, I don't know what pretty means. I would say the rural area of the township, which is a significant portion, has difficulties. Topography. That's where the ridge of Welsh Road, which is one of the highest points in Berks County. Nolly Forest is one of the highest points in Berks County. There are some significant challenges in getting to some of the rural areas.
Your thought is that we could still bat out the event?
Broadband is the first priority in our broadband feasibility study, but we also realized that we may end up with some fixed wireless solutions. Again, not our first choice, but it can be the second choice. And the county does still have funds to match broadband infrastructure funds.
I like that we're running out of space on the opportunities, just for the record.
What do you think? But would you identify broadband as a weakness in some of those, you know, because if we're looking at housing, that's one of the things that is important for like a work from home for some. How many people are going to be working from home, but a work from home opportunity or even school, as you probably saw. But I mean, should we identify that as a weakness right now in some of those rural areas?
I think so.
Not that I'm trying to make it weakness, but it's just that's my good opportunity.
All right, we still got some.
Maybe you can rip those papers off, you know.
Yeah, but there were stuck underneath, so I have to untangle it later.
Any additional opportunity? what we'll do is we're gonna circulate. As you look at these and you may go home and say, oh, wait a minute. We'll give some time to add to that. And again, this is, our very first step. Pulling together some of this public comment and information that's gonna be important. You wanna open to the public? I mean, we have some next steps, when we explore the next
you wanna go
steps.
there?
And then,
Okay. All right, and I know in terms of signups, I know Ruth signed up. Did you want to speak, Ruth?
No, I just took that down in case you had a question.
Okay. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak?
And so then the next steps for the steering committee, need to help in identifying the stakeholders, stakeholder meetings, identifying the participants for the focus group sessions, and then, the first location or the location for open houses. And we're shooting for those time periods. I think it would be important to kind of hone in on those dates. Get it on the calendars, because the one that concerns me is the summertime, it's a vacation, and getting your feedback as far as does that make sense to have it in summer, push that out to mid-August. Those were like the feedback from the steering committee regarding that schedule. Does it seem realistic? And then also your thoughts for location for an open house and kind of the time frame.
Are we're starting with stakeholders now? Is that what you would like?
Yeah.
So I guess I would turn to like Deb and Pam on this one. I think it's right up your alley.
Yes.
Certainly the list.
Yeah, we don't need to identify them now, but yes, circulate the list, not only for Deb and Pam, but the municipality as well. Again, the stakeholders, and then who should be present in these focus groups.
Just a point of clarification for key industry leaders. So like give me an example of that would be.
Your healthcare. I would say the school district is one of your key employers. Some of your other large industries. Yes.
You looking for names right now?
No, we can, what we'll do is, we'll send out an email and then have, steering committee identify who those stakeholders and focus group participants should be.
You should have her look at the email. I think we're on one that Jean sent.
Yeah, so I have.
I think with the real estate professionals, we have one commissioner now that's a realtor, we have a prior commissioner that's a realtor, so I think they would be. One people that have.
And we would ask that, to identify any developers. The developers are gonna give us some good insight on, why are they developing and why are missing and not. And it will probably come down to your, but I think having one or two developers as part of the stakeholders would be good as well.
What kind of developers? Commercial, residential?
I think both. Because we're looking at both.
Talked a bit about industrial over at that train station area. Are you looking for industrial developers as well?
Yeah, I think typically a developer that does commercial.
Thanks.
Zelda's next steps, after we get the information from the steering committee, is, we're gonna schedule a meeting with the township officials and staff. We'll hold those 10 stakeholder interviews and, focus group sessions. We'll start to draft the survey, questions, and we'll get those to the steering committee for feedback. We'd like to launch that in February, by mid-February. And then, conduct the next steering committee, which will be in June. And in that time period is that first open house as well.
We want to talk about that first open house date. We probably got everybody here. So just to be clear, the first open house, that's for the public? For steering
That is for the
committees?
public.
Okay, so the steering committee should or shouldn't?
We like to have a steering committee there. We'll have different stations set up so that the public can go to again, it's very informal. It's just like an open house. And we'll have different stations, whether it's transportation, infrastructure, housing, to get input. And that's why we like to do the public survey. Kind of kick that off first. And we'll get their feedback on the same kinds of things as far as issues and opportunities.
And what month, like, if we're talking about?
April. Cool.
We want to check calendars while we're here. In terms of where to have it, like, Lisa, is this something we could have maybe over at the school? Like in the, one of the buildings, whichever one makes the most sense for you? And then how, Andy said the week of the 7th here, like, is that a good week? Like a Thursday, that seems to avoid a lot of our other meetings, I think. Do we want to go with, whatever, I don't know, what the Thursday, the 10th? How does Thursday, April 10th work for everybody? Maybe I should say it's not a problem for anybody.
The only meeting I know,
That's where we want to. I was trying to avoid the meeting. Is there, another day that week? Let's see. That's the first one.
It would be easier. Are there any days that week that, we know Thursday won't work? There are other days that won't work. Monday, Tuesday, for up.
We're not capable of anything.
yeah, that's not the third Tuesday.
Yeah.
And Wednesday should be okay. The only meeting I have that week is the morning, sorry, the morning of, April 10th is the authority meeting, but if we're doing this at 8:30 in the morning, nobody's coming unless we're serving breakfast.
So how about Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yes, Tuesday or Wednesday.
How about nights? Good. I know wonder. All right, I'm not hearing any objections. Let's go with Wednesday, April the 9th then. It'll be one of the school buildings, TBD. Should we target 6 o'clock again?
I think that's a good time.
All right, we'll shoot for that. And then, once Lisa figures out the best school building, then we'll have the location, but let's plan on that the Wednesday, April the 9th, 6 o'clock. Anything else you want to go over, Teresa?
No, that's everything I have.
Any other comments or questions from anybody? Go.
I'd just like to say that I've only been a resident of this, not for 67 years. This is the most productive meeting that we can have with decades. And have with the community, everybody that knows, presenting this, learning this and getting everybody involved. It's been a great opportunity for us all to improve.
Not, then I guess we'll adjourn for the night.